Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Calen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing good. A little punchy this morning.
Yeah, well, you're always a
honestly.
little punchy.
Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah,
and then sometimes I'm
probably
like, woo.
7 out of 10 times you're punchy.
Well, that's an
I
improvement.
think it's 70%. That would
Oh,
be my.
that's pretty
we
good.
make up numbers on the show.
Did you know? Yeah, it's exactly 72%.
Yeah, it could be 76.3%.
It could be. Did you know that, fun fact, that before COVID happened, that number would have been 100%.
Yes.
Guaranteed
Yeah.
it would have.
So COVID made you more serious.
It made me a more serious individual.
By 23.6%.
Thereabouts. Yeah, I think that's pretty close. How about you? How are you doing this
I'm
week?
good. Well, this is our wrap-up show. It kind of feels like the last day of school, I guess.
I know.
We have a few months off.
It does feel like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, remember one of our first podcasts we did? You came in, you were like, not buzzing, but you were slightly buzzing on doing some microdosing.
Microdosing.
This was a couple years ago now. You were microdosing, you're like, I wonder how this is going to work out. So, in lieu of that, I brought us a 26er of gin and a couple hits of acid. And we're just going to sit here all day until we get a podcast
I
done.
love it. It'll be like a 17-hour podcast.
Yeah, it'll be in a
weeds,
couple
right?
parts. We can break it up.
I still remember that was like bizarre. I still have the bottle of infused acid vodka in my freezer, and yeah, it was a big mistake, but it was it was a fun ride.
Do you ever microdose anymore?
I don't. No, I don't. But it's interesting. Like, I still think about it because I never gave it enough of a shot because I also was getting some blood work done and I was getting some life insurance and I was all in my head about,
Probably not the right time.
well, not right time. Getting back into it, but I've been doing the cold plunging. So I've been doing some of these alternative types of things. I really like the cold plunging. I'm noticing a difference. I probably dropped 10 pounds, but that's pretty much the only change.
Is that just from cold plunging?
Well, it creates some discipline.
Yeah,
So
okay, yeah.
I probably worked out a little bit more, but I can't say it's because of the workout. Because I fast, my fasting is probably a little bit more stringent. So there's some things, but generally speaking, I would say a big chunk of it is from the cold plunging, I would think.
Well, I guess when you insert a forcible habit in your life,
Yes.
it kind of influences other things that you do as well.
Well, it creates that extra discipline. And, if I'm going to be going and putting myself through that every morning, then why would I have like dessert at night? Or, why wouldn't I get on the treadmill for a half hour or something like that? So I've been doing a little bit of that. But generally speaking, the only thing that I've really changed is my cold plunging because I was doing that before too.
See, I figure every 20 minutes on the stair climber at home I can do equals one piece of cheesecake that I can have when I'm done.
It's probably not. I mean, that would be pretty. That's a fact I called.
It's a caloric in and out fact.
Well, they say
Isn't that how that works?
Well, they say calorie deficit and all that stuff, but I guess it matters what you eat and how it makes you feel and everything in moderation, as they say. But so the cold plunging anyways, I really like. And, there's an aspect about being out in nature, even if it's only for like 5 or 10 minutes, is pretty cool. And
do you put your hands in the dirt or your feet to ground yourself?
No, I have like clogs on, or not clogs, but Crocs. But I think about it because there is something with grounding. I bought a grounding blanket too, which absolutely does nothing. But,
is that like an electric blanket that
it
fails?
plugs into.
It's so grounded out.
Well, it's not grounded because on the 3 prongs, it's the third bottom prong that's the ground.
Right.
So that actually is grounded. So you stick the blanket into that prong. So it's got nothing to do with the electricity, but that prong is connected to the ground.
Right.
effectively, like through the system.
Just
you know,
makes
if
me
you
think of
follow
an
that
electric
wire.
blanket with a faulty wire sticking out of it. Or
Yeah,
something.
and then you're going to burn
You
your house
touch it.
down.
It's
Shock
like, okay,
yourself.
I'm grounding.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, there's, I don't know, I don't know how much they charge for it. My wife bought 2 of them for us, but maybe it's like $25 for this blanket, but it's
Okay.
basically just a piece of cloth that's got this wire attached to it that plugs into the ground, and it's supposed to improve sleep, like whatever. I haven't noticed a single thing, but
I
guess
I
if you
know a
believe it.
few people, including my wife, who swears that going barefoot is the way to go, and
I
she's
agree with that.
done really well with it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing.
I
where
don't
she
think
can do
you're going to be
barefoot.
grounding from a blanket, but I think you know, being in tune with the ground. Like I remember, my nieces and nephews were over last summer, and we were out in the yard, and I was just lying in the grass a lot. Like they were here for a week, and I probably played with them and was rolling around on the ground, probably 3 or 4 days, and like for half hour, 45 minutes at a time, and I honestly felt different. Like I felt refreshed. I felt a little bit happier. I don't know. There's something to it. I for sure there is.
I got something about having bare feet outside. I'm not for it for myself.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, I like wearing like 3 pairs of socks and a pair of shoes just to go outside. I'm a total never nude when it comes to feet.
Yeah.
And but my hands do the same thing. So when
Yeah.
I'm out in the garden, I don't wear gloves. I just keep my hands.
Yeah,
in the
that's
dirt, and I
grounding.
feel the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Same effect.
I think there's, I don't know. I mean, you hear, I see on social media now they've got Terrence. You know who Terrence Howard is?
Oh, I mean, that's all I've been hearing.
I
about the
know,
last
and it's
couple
just
days.
so weird.
And
Like
it's
he's
starting to drive me
basically
crazy.
challenging. This is how. Okay, this is how crazy like the world is today. You basically have an actor who, from what I understand, doesn't have any background in science or any of that stuff, but he's basically talking about he was on Joe Rogan talking about the periodic table and then how this and that and carbon and hydrogen and all this stuff, and you got to look at it this way. And he's talking, I saw a clip of him yesterday talking about like pi, like these kind of known mathematical equations and facts and all this stuff that a whole bunch of science has been built on. And he's basically trying to convince people that it's all BS or that it's alternative. Like there's an alternative way to look at the world and you're challenging. And
Well, there
I
are
think-
alternative ways to look at the world. For
I
sure.
don't know, but like, I don't know. Like I think it's crazy.
I've heard a bit about I've heard lots about his name being out there lately. I've heard a little bit about what he says, and just a couple of days ago, I heard a debunking of everything he was saying, and that to me, I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's
Well, they want to debate actual scientists, and scientists are like, I'm not going to
about what.
About what? You
Yeah.
you have to have a common to debate. There has to be a common set of facts or beliefs in order to properly. You can't say, the science. Oh, this is the science. This is like the evidence over the last 100 years, and this is how it's evolved. And then you're just going to say, no, that's not it. The sky's black. It's not blue. And you're looking at it and go, it's blue. Oh, no, it isn't. Well, how do you debate that? Right.
Yeah.
So I think in this, I love the fact that people are being challenged to think deeper and broader, but the onset of like conspiracy theories and alternate realities basically is out there. And I think it's a purposeful exercise by some to destabilize a certain group of people, and it's gaslighting because it makes you stop believing what you think. Like if you correlate the number of people that think the earth is flat with, sort of mega extremists or, alt left, far alt left or far alt right people, there's a common thread there.
Yeah.
Right. And
we all thrive on getting answers to questions that there are no real answers.
yeah, and the reality is like it ends up happening when there's nothing else to really do or think about. There hasn't been there's wars all throughout the world, but there hasn't been a major, other than the pandemic, and the pandemic just cracked the coconut open even more, because then you're anti-government, distrusting the government, and all this stuff. Which is, I think it's good to be skeptical, but when you start like believing in unicorns and fairy tales, I think that's where, okay.
My father-in-law, speaking of the unicorn, he's from Glasgow, or he was from Glasgow, and what a guy. But he always used to say that his favorite extinct animal was the unicorn. And it took me, it's like, what? Wait, no, that means you think they exist. It's like, well, they're on the Scottish flag, right? So
Yes,
if you grow up in Scotland and if you don't know any better, I mean, that's your perception.
Yeah,
it's on your flag.
Yeah.
And why would you, if you've never been told they don't exist?
That makes more sense because it's in your face. There's some evidence of it being around. It's on the flag. I don't know. There's just certain things where, well,
there's almost like unicorn.
It comes down, for me, it just comes down to, like if you don't have any studied background in it, and all of a sudden now you're challenging the norm, but you have zero background, like you're just making stuff up.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to say that oh yeah, what about this? How can this be possible? And you know what? There's going to be discoveries as we move forward over the next decade, 50 years, 100 years, all this stuff. Like even climate change is going to be solved one way or the other. So that's just how humans adapt and, the rapid transformation. I read this book and it basically talked about the convergence of technology in different industries and how they, like something in the semiconductor industry will affect something in the AI area and vice versa. As technologies are rapidly growing, other industries are picking up on it and piggybacking on that. So that's how we're having this super hyper fast advancement in technology and development and creating and all that kind of stuff. But I think allowing the technology to guide and educate versus these like make believe and conspiracy and unicorn stuff, it's like, come on, man. We have enough stuff to kind of should have enough stuff to keep our focus without entertaining all this BS. And a lot of it has to do, especially nowadays, in my opinion, with like control and controlling different groups of people and also putting different groups of people in boxes and
controlling the narrative.
And it really leads to like authoritarian type policies and politics and especially in the States, like
on both sides. I mean, you've got Trump on the right, say, pushing the same divisive politics that, say, Trudeau on the left is pushing.
Yeah.
And they're both ending up being dictator-like.
Yes.
Well, they're both doing the same thing.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But
Well,
they're on opposite spectrums.
Totally. And they're designed to create wedges to force people to make decisions. And, if you're not on their tribe, you're on this other tribe. And we're mirroring, like the difference between the conservatives and the liberals in our country is there isn't a ton of difference.
It's about 5 degrees of separation, I'm sure, in the middle of the spectrum.
There's probably out of like 400 policy, there's probably 350 that are similar and 50 that are different.
Yeah.
But in order to create a wedge in a narrative, you're going to basically be saying, oh, they're trying to, get rid of abortion and all this stuff. And I follow politics fairly closely. And, obviously there's some concern about that especially when you see what's going on in the US, but I think Canadians are too smart.
I hope so. I'm probably not too.
But I also don't think because of that, I don't think and we shouldn't get too into politics because, obviously.
But we can make up politics and we can make up the facts.
I just don't like being, for me, I just like, let's have transparency. Let's have honesty. Let's not try to say, like, we're not going to solve all the world's problems. So, let's just do our best part. But there's a lot of things we can be doing that could be advancing, helping other countries like China, move forward and accept, the responsibility of decarbonization of the globe. But for us to think that we could do it solely is, I think, naive, but also really sets up that fight, which I don't think we should be having. We should be looking for bridges And regardless of how people view the world, we should be welcoming them to the table to have discussions.
I remember when environmentalism was about the environment, and it felt more about like cleaning up the environment, making sure that there's protected spaces that can thrive and build.
Yeah.
And now it just feels like everything is, all the solutions are based on attacking carbon or taxing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, can't we put aside the taxation model and start putting money towards preserving
Yeah.
environments that are working and
Well,
being more positive?
that's where you have to, in my opinion, like, you can't tax your way out of a problem, just like you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. Like, those are sort of, I think, statements that are true.
That's why I don't go to the gym.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm just like, forget it, I'm just gonna have a bad diet.
That's right.
I don't.
It's not
need
going to
worry
help
about
if I
that.
go.
But when it comes to it, is like, you have people that are trying to do things, like, it's like the virtue signaling kind of stuff, and that happens both on the left and the right of the political spectrum, and it's really tribe building. And I just think, getting out the noise and getting off social media. Since I stopped interacting on social media, like, I might post, actually don't really engage. I might comment on a few people's things. I don't get into I used to get on Twitter and get into these heated battles. And it was just like you're not really accomplishing anything. You're spending a sizable amount of time debating with people that are really just there designed to create this conflict and perpetuate it. And my life has been very peaceful, and I like watching and seeing what's going on, but not engaging in the way I used to engage in it, and dealing with those one-on-one relationships, like the talks we have today. Like, we're not, we may talk about some stupid stuff or our belief system or whatever, but we have a conversation, and we don't agree on approaches in business entirely. We don't agree on, political stuff. We both have partners that have different viewpoints than us. And I think that's good. And I think that's healthy. And, Tom from Timbuktu talking about what he believes, like, why do I care?
Well, we're strong enough individuals to have our differences and talk about them respectfully.
Yeah, and it's not like getting this shouting match, and it's about being right versus doing right. And I think that's where I've really sort of centered myself in it. And you talk about books, and I've talked about this book all the time, The Fourth Turning,
yes.
which really has guided me in understanding that, this moment in time is a result of all the moments in time previous. And it's like a wave. And we're just in this, and it's kind of a lousy wave, because of all the divisiveness and all the change and all the uncertainty that's going on globally. I do think that once this passes, we're going to be back into the next cycle.
Well, and
right?
It makes it feel like the book, I've also read it on your recommendation.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it made me feel like that it's just a natural progression of things. And
It just makes sense.
if you can't fight it,
yeah.
why do it? But you're talking about how social media is influencing you, and that, man, I'm almost off.
Yeah.
There's a great podcast. I'm gonna plug another podcast here, and it's called Better Offline, and it's all about how bad social media is turning out to be, and how it's corrupting us all. And I found this podcast. I found this podcast on the backs of hearing a bunch of studies about how social media and our phones have corrupted our children, caused massive amounts of depression. And I can actually see that in my kids. I can see, and my kids are very well adjusted kids, I think. But I can still see the influence that social media and phones have played on them in a negative way.
Oh my God.
And my kids are smart and they're socially adept and everything, but I can still see the influence it's had on them. And if I'm torn right now between just turning it all off and not having it for my business or myself and just being free of social media completely. And I don't know if I'm there yet because
and
of the
I don't
business
know that
part
it's
of it.
necessary, because for me, I've been able to separate myself and still like I'm probably on there more than I should, just kind of reading. I get a lot of news from there and seeing what's going on in the world and following different things, but I feel disconnected because I'm not engaging in it, because the algorithms, they induce you to engage. That's the whole
they
point
don't
of it.
work anymore. The algorithms don't work anymore.
Well, they're working for somebody.
They're
But it's not
working for
us.
Zuckerman.
Right? They're working for Zuckerman.
For
They're
more
working
money.
for Bezos. They're working
Yeah.
for all these people trying to get you to do something, right? When you really should just understand what you like and you can explore that kind of stuff. And there's millions of people that interact on social media, totally fine. But, coming from, I just was up in Grand Prairie with my brother and his family and young nieces and a nephew. And, they're on their, YouTube Kids or whatever they're on, and you can just see their sort of personalities change when they go on and off, and the craviness.
Outdoors,
and I
just
just don't think that, like, they still play outside because my brother and his wife are very much take them off their stuff, but I could see where you'd go just creating, this sort of nervous, endorphin inducing activities that aren't related to being outside, grounding, and just being connected to nature and actually having physical conversations. Like you look at the gamers and they're gaming with their friends, and some of their best friends in the world they've never met in person, but they talk to every day, and they're spending 5-6 hours a day with or more doing these games. And I don't know. I just think that's getting connected back to, what's important, which is your own personal relationships, and just getting off that noise, I think, is a goal of mine for this next year.
Global static. That's the noise I hear when I tune into social media these days.
Yeah.
I don't hear anything that I think I'm going to want to hear from my algorithm. Like, it doesn't influence, and I can't reach out. Like, what I post doesn't go to the people who follow me anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they've just ruined social media. It reminds me of what Byron, one of our guests, was saying about social media.
He
had some really interesting points about.
We had some really good guests. So getting back to our sort of reminiscing over this last year, which I think is season 3 or season 4 or something.
Sure, let's call it 4.
Yeah, 4, I guess.
Why not?
Feels like it's been 4. I think we started.
I don't know how you count a season, if it's every 12, 13 episodes, or it's every year. Or it's
We've been doing this
season.
year was pretty good. We kind of shifted our focus this year from that acute sort of talking about business and business management and that kind of stuff to interviewing guests that are local to the Southern Vancouver Island restaurant hospitality scene, which was amazing. We've got some more guests next year or next season that we'll bring out when we relaunch in August. But who was your favorite guest this year?
Man, well, I didn't have a favorite, but what I found
man. Put you on the spot.
Okay. No. Our guest was a great pivot we made this season. I thought it was wonderful. We've had guests before, but we really put a focus on who we wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
And for me, it was so great because I got to reconnect with a few people that I really felt so good to reconnect with. And for that, I thought this season was the best season we've done because it became more personal. It got more interesting for me because I love the history of the hospitality industry. I love following the threads and pulling the threads and seeing where it goes, kind of.
There's a lot of connections too.
So, well, we're such a small town, right? And we have more restaurants per capita than pretty much anywhere around, yet we're so small. Everyone knows each other. So I really loved having Greg Hayes on from Cafe
Greg Hayes,
and I wish
amazing.
that Sylvia could have come on as well, because that would have been
Sylvia's amazing.
Well, the room would have been too small.
Yeah.
And I really loved having Audrey Elsenberg on. I thought that was
Audrey
one of the
was
connections
incredible.
I wasn't sure I was ever going to make again.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
And you used to work for her all those years ago.
So many.
And I don't know that she's ever done an interview like that. I think it was the first podcast she was on. But what a wealth of knowledge, and coming from, where she came from, and she went through Lasqueti. She's originally from the U.S. All very interesting, and just those early starts of her business that she had for, I don't know, 35 years, 40 years almost.
Yeah.
Because she just sold it in 2018.
Yeah, not long ago.
Yeah.
And to think back and think about how she was building something at a time where, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were a different age. We were in different parts of our lives.
Yeah.
I was really young.
Yeah.
You're not that much older than me.
No.
Are you even older than me? Are we
Dude,
the same
I'm
age?
53, man.
Okay, I'm turning 52 maybe this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
So-
we went to college together, so we would be close, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think,
You look better than
I think we grew up differently. Maybe you were a little more serious a little bit before me.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll arm
maybe.
wrestle for it later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, even her
so
connection
back
to
in there,
Michael Williams too, like,
which is historical. Like
It's
he was
historical.
a crazy
yeah,
landowner
eccentric
in Victoria.
landowner,
Yeah.
donated all his properties to the University of Victoria. Like, it's insane. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many connections there, which I really, really enjoyed her stories. And first Starbucks in Canada,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Lots of really interesting things.
Yeah.
Who did you think was really interesting?
Byron from Fry's was super interesting. He had a very good perspectives in life. Also, his attitude towards business, and then his, the history, because everything comes with history. So his family history in the baking,
Yep.
which he never really connected with until he was an adult, basically. And then he just started discovering all these different things. And his attitude towards social media, as we were just talking about, was refreshing and very funny. Like, I just find it interesting because, I think people, I don't know what people think about business people or people that are in the hospitality sector, but none of us are in it to get rich. We're in it to try to provide obviously a living for our family. But it's really about the passion. It's about the mission of doing it. It's like artistry a bit, like
Yeah, for me,
painters
it's
don't
like
make
kind
money.
of taking care of people.
Yeah.
I love taking care of people.
Yeah,
and that's
and
kind of what
providing
it boils
that
down to.
hospitality. And so Byron was like really about that, and also respect. And that's the common thread with all of our guests this year is their devotion to their craft and the uncompromising vision where they've just stayed the course. And it maybe doesn't always make the best financial sense. It doesn't always, bring you the most reward, but there's something about that I really respect.
It might last longer
Well, it's
in people's minds and hearts.
I think that's part of it. Like, I honestly think that if you can, the secret to success in my mind on this topic is really getting your customers and the people that you're expecting to serve bought into what you're doing and why you're doing it, because then they become a part of the story.
Yeah.
And I think, because of how long we've been doing this, seeing those kids of our customers then become our customers, and then their kids come, they are understanding what you're doing. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to stand out and go, oh, look at me, because you're just a part of their life, and you've created a business that allows them to come in and come out of what you're doing, and you're supporting each other. And I think that, to me, is which makes our businesses family, and the community's part of that family. And I think you only get that if you really stick to what your principles are and what your core mission is.
Right.
And yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic.
Talking to these hospitality gurus and legends made me think back a lot this year about how the industry has evolved and changed and what it was like back then, and like going down to the Mint at midnight after work and going for your last couple of drinks, or going to Scandals, or
Yes,
or,
yes.
you know, going to all these places after work with your crew and meeting
Yeah.
up. All the other chefs and servers
Yeah.
from all the other places would meet at certain spots every night. Like Sunday night
Yeah.
was Scandals and somewhere else, and then Saturday night was Harpo's in this
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
and, you know, and it felt like it was, and maybe I'm just old and I've aged out of the community, but it felt like the hospitality industry was more of a tight community in Victoria.
Yeah, I think the
and
interaction
I'm sure-
was internal. So you had the staff and the customers were on the outside
Yeah.
looking in,
Yeah.
you know, where I think now it's more integrated, where your actual customers become your friends, and, you know, they're out there knowing you in the community, and you see them at other businesses and other spots, and you chit chat about, and there's it was probably a little bit more, isolationist, I guess, where you were worried about competition. You know, so you made all those bonds with the people in the community, and you're like, oh, how are you doing? But now it's really about, hey, you should go check out this place because they're doing really cool stuff. So you're educating your own customers about other things because you have that bond and respect with them, that they're like, hey, try this. I know you really enjoy this here. You should try this over there. And without worrying about, you know, and I think people appreciate it.
I think so too.
You know?
You know what I used to love back in the day? Going down to Seattle on the Clipper. And on the Clipper, back in the 90s, early 2000s, you could show them a pay stub of a hospitality business.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it was in Victoria. You could get a return ticket for like 20, 25 bucks.
Oh my goodness.
And so we would go down there
Yeah.
on the regular, just on the 2.5 hour
Yeah.
trip down to Seattle, go play with a bunch of hospitality industry
Yeah.
people at other restaurants and
Yeah.
bars in Seattle, gain some enthusiasm from outside
some
of Victoria,
fresh look
and
at
we
it.
would bring it back
Yeah.
all the time, and it felt like everything was always a little fresher and
Yeah.
and fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I think the thread too with people in our industry and the ones that we've had as guests, they've all been, amazing and successful. And success looks different. So it's not like they've grown from one store to like 17 stores and they're living on this yacht and all this stuff. Their business has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
They've been in the grind, and they've just been providing really good service to the community, which I think that's whether it doesn't translate on the profit and loss statement or the balance sheet, but there's a lot of profit in accomplishing cool things and doing good things. And it doesn't always have to be the dollars and cents,
Yeah.
and I've really been thinking a lot about that. And some of it stems from the charity work that I've been involved in over the last 5 years. It's becoming a bigger part of my day-to-day life, but it's also the most rewarding part of it, is where you're actually, giving money away to worthy causes and organizations and whatnot. But it's more about understanding that there's a lot to gain from that, personally.
Yeah.
It's obviously they appreciate it, but for me as a business person, to being able to do that, and construct a business that allows me to do that in a way is pretty rewarding. And it doesn't matter. Obviously it bites into our bottom line significantly, but I'm like, I get to do both things.
Yeah.
And I'm still paying the bills. I'm still making a living, and I'm not just focused on that bottom line, which makes it way more human.
It does. Makes it a human
Yeah, because the
business.
thing about it is you can't, I think of these gazillionaires and they're growing their wealth at clips that are just, it's hard to imagine. How empty, It's just, to me, that the pursuit and chase of money just for the sake of money is wrong.
Well, it will leave you empty because it's a soulless pursuit.
Yeah.
And it will leave everyone else you leave in your wake empty as well,
Yeah.
because you've stolen everything
Yeah.
from them to get to where you are.
Yeah,
if
well,
you're
there's always
that person, right?
there's always a trade-off. So if you're gaining money, someone else is losing money.
Exactly. On
right?
the backs of whom?
On the backs of
Like,
whom are you building your life and your business off of?
Yeah.
And if you don't care, that's great. If you sleep well at night, awesome. happy for you, but you can't take it with you. And I've been fortunate in my life to have these sums of money, whether it's winning the bracelet for 300,000 in Vegas, or, I settled a lawsuit, when I was in a coma 20 years ago, and, various different little pockets where there's almost like winning lottery kind of stuff, or having a really good business success for a period of time that it's brought in some funds. None of it ever mattered to me in the end, and it's not that it's just because who I am, it just didn't matter. Like, the money comes and goes, and you're like, oh, okay, now what? You're still left with trying to, enrich your life and try to benefit the people around you and all those things. So doing it for the sole pursuit of money is basically where you're working, for, you're not working for yourself anymore. You're just working for that pursuit.
We've talked about that where profit isn't necessarily money. Profit is what you make it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a nice part about all of our businesses.
Yeah.
Is that we're not really focused. I mean, we're focused on maintaining a profit level, because otherwise we wouldn't.
Yeah, well,
business.
it has to go
But
from like
there's
0%
a balance,
to
right?
like 3% or 4% or something.
Yeah, there's a balance, but it's not. You don't judge how profitable your business is just on the bottom line. You judge it on so many things that
we
just
would
talked
make,
about.
and this is the thing, the danger, I guess, because then you stop being about your passion and about your mission and where your core beliefs of your business are. Because if it's purely about the profit, we all would be doing a bunch of things differently.
Yeah.
But I don't believe we would have
Styrofoam cups.
Yeah, well, and I don't think we'd have the success that we've got. Like, we success is about the longevity, the fact that we've been able to earn a living for ourselves for 25, 30 years doing this. And again, nobody's getting rich, but we're rich in spirit, and we're rich in what we do because of our ability to do what we love to do in a way that we love to do it. We decide.
I thought a great example of that was Greg Hayes. I thought he's, if we were to compare successes, I would love to have his success. He may not be a super rich man, but they're going on vacation after their retirement. They're going to do lots of traveling.
Yeah.
They've got their stuff locked up and it's good, and they had a great life. Like, think about all the people they touched.
Oh my goodness!
And how many people touched them and improved their lives just by them having having Cafe Brio that was so inviting and got so many people in to see them in their house.
Yeah.
Gregsford is his house, right?
Yeah.
So people coming into your house all the time.
Yeah.
And what a great life. That's a profitable life.
Well, it is. And, when you measure it, and the other thing too is like not trying to hit that home run.
Yeah.
Trying to hit a bunch of little singles and base hits will get you there in a way that is more stable, but also creates that concrete that you need, that solid foundation in your business to last, decades. And the struggle's real. I mean, the one common thread too, it's like going to battle, I would imagine. I've never gone to battle, but you feel like you're in the trenches with people that, through our Bread and Butter Collective, we all have shared stories. We've all been there. We've all been facing a payroll with no money in the bank and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
We've all looked at our mistakes and also looked at our business and go, oh man, why can't we just be more profitable? Why doesn't this work? And the one thing that keeps us going is our desire to succeed and our passion, right? And at the end of the day, that seems way more important than we're scrimping over, pennies.
Well, you can scrimp over as many pennies as you want.
You're always going to have pennies to scrimp over.
Yeah, you just want more.
Yeah, and even when you're successful, you only just want more money, and none of it makes you happy.
No.
But I tell you, running this business, going in the stores, talking to my staff, talking to our customers, gives me so much reward. And we don't need to go into the day-to-day trials and tribulations of what our business is like. No one wants to hear that. But when you're there and you're seeing them enjoy your food and you're seeing your product go out, it really is rewarding because you've created something. You created something tangible that, might not show up on the P&L statement or your balance sheet, but you really feel it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's
and the people around you feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's an interesting, reality when you come to the conclusion that, enough's enough and what you're doing is enough. And, obviously it's not perfect, but you're creating something cool.
Yeah.
I think all of our guests really created something cool.
You know what guest I didn't forget we had him on, but it made me thinking about the nice conversations we had and why we have guests on. Part of the reason we have guests on is to look behind the curtain a bit and to show people who these leaders in our industry are. And having Peter Zambri on was really neat. And we of course we both know Peter. You know him much better than I do, but I've known Peter for years, and I know lots about his personal life and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, pulling back the curtain and hearing about how he got to where he was really eye-opening, and that was the kind of interview that I want to have more of.
Yes,
like
exactly.
just like finding out like that you've got this character that everyone knows this character, but where did it come from?
Yeah.
How did it develop?
How did it form?
And how many people did it touch? Like hearing all the people he's cooked with over the years. A couple of them I knew, but quite a few I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, it was really interesting. So I want to, for our next season, when we're trying to figure out who we
to
want
have
on for guests, I want more people like that, more people who have a complicated history to where they got to.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to see and understand how they got to where they are.
Well, I think it's, the one thing it shows when you hear these stories is that there's no straight line.
No. That's
and
a good point.
you've all the different ways to get there. There's many different channels and paths to go, and none of them are straight. And even when you think, oh my goodness, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to have to.
You're going to have to. And I think that's the thing, 1 week at a time. And the next week gets a little bit easier, or maybe gets a little harder. And the week after gets a little bit easier. But, I think that those are the messages that I get out of all those stories. Yeah. It's more confirmation that, a lot of people have sort of like imposter syndrome, or like they've never done this before, even though you've been doing it 5 or 10 years or however long. But people are having the exact same experience in the other yard that you're having. It's not like...
And sometimes when you hear that or you see that, it gives you a sense of belonging. It makes things feel better.
Well, you don't have to worry about that, right? You don't have to worry about, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just like horrible at this. And I imagine some people are.
And some people are horrible at it. But
everybody's going through the same thing, banging their heads against the same wall. And that's the one thing that I've treasured about, our podcast, but also the Bread and Butter Collective, where you can actually just say, hey, how did you guys deal with this? And you're like, oh, yeah, that's how I dealt with it too. Oh, yeah, okay, good. All right. Now you can go forward with a little bit more confidence, knowing that, hey, I'm not, I had Joe and Peter were like, not questioning, but we're saying, wouldn't it be, maybe we should have like a CGA or a CPA or an accountant or something, sort of audit how our processes and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, I guess that's probably not a bad idea. So I brought somebody in, and I basically was like, it was really, my feathers were like,
sure.
Because I'm like, all right, I am doing it right, or I'm doing it this way. And it was a really good confirmation.
Yeah.
My initial reaction was like, oh man, what are you talking about? And then I just thought about it, like, you know what?
Why, is that your department?
Yeah, exactly.
What, we got to audit my... Yeah, fair enough.
Like, I don't tell you how to cook. Don't tell me how to... But I think that's part of the benefits if you can have that sort of openness.
Yeah.
Because none of us are the smartest people in the room all the time. And I think it's good to have confidence, but I also think it's really good to reflect. And just like Terrence Howard is like challenging... conventional
It's
science.
good to challenge.
I guess it's good.
Make it real.
Sometimes you're like...
real challenges.
You might sound like a wingnut, but who knows? Maybe there's a crumb in there that, you get exposed to a different way. And then all of a sudden now you can go forward with a little bit more confidence.
Have you ever watched Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares?
Oh yeah.
You know, sometimes I watch them and I haven't watched one in a while because sometimes I find them depressing because it's just like, oh my God. But sometimes I find myself like welling up, like when he fixes something or people make a change and it's because he's pointed out their mistakes or whatever. It's like, oh, that's my mistake too. And I was like wiping back the tears like, oh my God, I get so emotional. It's like Hallmark movies.
Well, there's no better feeling when you fix something permanently.
Yeah.
You know, where you change a pattern or you change something you've been doing. And, sometimes it could just be like a comment or something. And then you're just like, I never thought about that.
Right.
And if you're too rigid in your thought process, or too connected to your own decisions, then it's hard for you to be open to that.
Yeah.
And I think being open and adaptable is sort of one of the important ingredients of being an entrepreneur. And also taking criticism and seeking advice. And, maybe not all the advice applies, or you also have to vet who you're getting advice from. But I think being open to that is cool. And that's one of the things with the guests too, is just hearing their path and how they got there.
Well, and that's, the only reason I bring up the Gordon Ramsay thing is because I want the feeling that I get from watching it to be what some listeners might get. Like it might strike a chord with them to hear someone else's stories of success or failure or getting through failure to success. I mean, that can be really inspiring for people. It can open people's eyes. And I thank all our guests from this last season for being so open with us and just like just putting it out there.
Yeah.
It was
and
really
not
nice.
being afraid to, we had Sterling Grice on, used to own Part and Parcel, owns Foo, owns Penhala now, and originally started in at the Mint. And was also a longtime server at Brasserie Le Col. And
he's one of those threads that you can just pull
like
in
it just
history
like
of
all
our
those little
hospitality.
connections and it's really, really interesting. And Kristen at Prima Strata, who grew up in Silicon Valley and has a totally different background, and her and her husband decided to open up a pizzeria in Victoria. And her husband Jeffrey is from Victoria, but it's just kind of cool. And I think back, just with Zambries and the viewpoint of, they're technically our competition, for example, right? We both sell Neapolitan pizza and, they've added some more Italian dishes to their menu and all that stuff. But I don't she's such a collaborator and a friend and, and I think that's the other thing is, be careful who you think is your enemy, I guess. Because people that are in your industry have so much knowledge to share if you are open to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, collaboration and consultation and discussion is way better than being on an island.
Yeah.
Because it makes you more resilient, I think.
It does. Yeah, it does. I think one of my favorite interviews, and it wasn't the best interview, that's for sure, but it was my favorite is because you weren't here. It's not because you weren't here. It's because we were able to pull it out of our ass. It was so fun.
Yeah, I canceled at the last second.
Yeah, and we had 5 minutes to find a guest, and I got John Sanders out of Vancouver, Origins Coffee, to come on and talk about coffee for a whole hour.
Yeah,
it was amazing, and I like talking to John as much as I like talking to you. We talk lots, and so it was nice to have that rambling back and forth. But it was nice to be able to pick up the phone and get someone for an interview for a podcast.
Totally,
it's that was really neat.
And just having those impromptu conversations, I think, are good because it really. I think podcasts should be, less. I mean, we're unscripted and very seldom are we planned, which I think actually makes it what I'm proud of. Because we're just a lot of times.
I'll stop bringing notes then.
Well, I mean, you do more preparation than I do, but I think we could probably plan a little bit better in the future. But ultimately. It's really just about conversation and seeing what happens. And And, you know, another guest, Shane Devereaux from Habit Coffee, who was on recently.
Yeah.
To me, you know, one thing that struck me as sort of a good life lesson is the fact that he's always been gone away for a week or 2 weeks by himself.
Yeah, I took that away from
Yeah.
that interview too.
And I just thought that was, and I've always known he's done it.
I was so jealous
Yeah. I mean,
in a good way.
well, and I think, you know, I was trying to think, well, do I do that? I mean, I go and play poker by myself often. I go to Vegas, you know, sometimes way too long, but it's important to just kind of escape what you're doing as long as you're not too far away from it. You know, I think I probably need to, and I'm going to reduce my schedule this year, but after 20 years of going there every summer, I think, you know, it probably hurts me a little bit. So there's that balance, you know, where you have to stay
you
connected.
going this year?
Yeah, I'm going on Sunday for 3 weeks instead of 7 weeks.
Okay, that's
So
nice balance.
this will be my first time reducing it. But I mean, as the business is growing, and I'm also getting older too, it's hard grind. And you know what? It's some point it's a hobby, but what point is it taking up too much of what I'm doing day to day? So
Are you going to be there for the full 3 weeks, or are you going to come back and forth?
no, I'm going to go for the full time, and I may go back for the main event, depending on how I do.
Right.
So I'm just, you know, the other thing too is just like not firing all your bullets every time you do something. Like, okay, I can go and have 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or you know what, even if I'm down there for 10 days or 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Just come home. There's always next year. There's always, you know, having that balance a little bit more rather than feeling like you're missing out on things. But prioritizing your time, I think, is important too.
You know what I've always wanted, and I was doing this pre-COVID, and I want to get back to, is working or taking Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday off.
Oh, I like
so
that.
I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday,
Yeah.
and that's my goal. So you never work more than 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think
think
about
that's
how much
good.
productive
Yeah.
you'd be and how fresh you'd be every
Well,
time
if you
go
think
to
of all
work.
that wasted time too, like, I mean, even though you think for us, like we're kind of on the clock 24/7, I'm not really productive I'm probably productive maybe 20% of the time, you know, versus just like, but I'm still putting in the time. So rather than just blocking off time management, like block time for your activities, I'm really productive
And
when I do that.
also trying to block off time for yourself.
Yes. Well, you got to plan, right?
You can't
Plan,
block
work,
off time
plan.
for
Yeah.
activities if you
Yeah.
don't block off time for yourself.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You should
know?
always think about yourself
Yeah.
first and then go and block
Yeah,
off
filling
time for work.
your bucket, and sometimes escaping and getting away from it will, you know, answers will pop up out of thin air.
Yeah.
You know, your brain is always kind of working in the background.
So that's
And-
what we learned from Shane.
Yes. Jay, and he's always done that. I mean, this
it's
is
amazing.
the beauty of being a part of these people's lives forever. You just see the benefit of what they're doing. So you can start incorporating that if you want. Because as we know, life is short. We've had some pretty shocking news in our industry. One of our original designers for Big Wheel, like our brand is our brand because of Caleb and his wife Hannah Lee, from Cast. The original design company was called Cast Projects, and he died suddenly of a heart attack a couple weeks ago. And he worked us on Cook Street. He worked with us on Gateway, and then on our Vic West store. And then we sort of had all the collateral, and so we hadn't worked really closely with him for the last probably 5 or 6 years, or 7 years even. But he recently reached out to me, and we're starting to kind of collaborate again. But he's such a genius in what he does. Like I know he did some work for you back in the day.
He did all my original logos as well. A lot of my graphics that we have as just our fun graphics were all done by Caleb.
And it's timeless.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, that's a thing that I just think, I mean, he was a Harvard graduate. He was a bit eccentric.
Editor of the paper at Harvard.
Yes.
Well.
Yeah. Like he's like super formally educated, but his creativity, and his wife Hannah Lee, not to take anything away from her, was amazing as well, or is amazing. she did a lot of the hand drawing of, our character and, Big Wheel on a Bear and all this really cool stuff. I was really shocked. And, he also did Habit, he did Hoyne Brewing, he did Discovery Coffee. He did so many of these iconic brands that have been around a long time.
Yeah, everywhere you look in Victoria, you're going to see him for years.
Yes, like it's
amazing
timeless
legacy.
Yeah,
Amazing
it's just
legacy.
bizarre because it happened so suddenly.
Well, it's so unfortunate that it has to be a legacy so early on. I mean, it shouldn't be a legacy, but it is, and he's got it. And that's something.
For sure, and he is remembered, like, which and that's all one can hope for at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's got something that we all kind of strive for, not to be forgotten, and he's made his mark
totally,
and he will not be forgotten.
No, and then we had some shocking news. One of our members of the Bread and Butter Collective, Emily, was diagnosed with cancer, and she still is fighting the fight, but it really goes to show how, just puts the attention on what should be important, which is friends, family, health.
Absolutely.
And it's
with Emily, I know there's a couple of fundraisers going on. I know there's a GoFundMe that needs some attention for her to help her with her treatment and taking care of the people who are taking care of her.
Yeah. And her significant other, Dustin, worked for us at Zambries. I've known him for a long time. I've known Emily for a long time too. She grew up in Terrace, where I grew up. And just an amazing, and she was running Bodega, and she's involved with the Tapa Bar too, I believe.
Yeah.
And just wonderful, wonderful human being.
Yeah,
and
so sweet.
So sweet, so smart, so caring, like just amazing. So, if you could check out her GoFundMe. I know.
I think on the Facebook hospitality page, they're organizing. I don't know if that's where to find the information, but it might be a good place to start. They're planning an event, fundraising event for her.
Yeah, I'm going to drop off some gift certificates to Sterling. Sterling and Emily are very close.
Yeah, they
are. It's just, when things like that come close to home, it just really causes me anyways to pause and sort of reprioritize what I'm doing. And, there's way more important things out there in the world for, and when health comes in.
It reminds me of when the Bread and Butter first got together. Our first meeting was actually 1 or 2 days after Hernandez died.
Oh, that's right.
And Emily
Hernandez,
and Rob from Hey Happy, because they're very close friends as well. They were all about trying to help Hernandez's family.
Yeah.
How do we do it? And they were both very, they were pushing so hard for that. That was one of our first meetings.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
And I don't forget that, Emily.
She's always advocated
really
for doing the right thing. And so, it's nice to see the community rallying behind her in her time of need. And who knows, obviously, what the future holds, but, just being there for people when they need it is important. And,
sure is.
It brings why we do all the stuff we do, brings it home for me.
And, all those connections that we've been talking about all throughout this episode, when you see people who are in trouble or have just passed away, those aren't names. They've touched so many people because we are such an interbred, intertwined community that we really do. We're blessed with having lots of friends and people who care.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is, it's a testament to the part of the world we're in, but also how open we've been to accepting others.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. And yeah, I mean, it's quite the year, and looking
not
forward to
over
the next
yet.
one. It's not over yet.
It's not
yeah,
over
it's
yet.
kind of like
I mean,
it's
our
just the
season's
summer.
over.
Our season's over, but the year is still ticking on.
It really is,
Yeah.
and there's going to be. I mean, there's going to be closures coming up. There's been lots of closures
Yes.
this year
The industry
in
is-
2024. Lots of industry closures. Bear and Joey
Yeah.
just closed. So many. That's just one off the top of my head, but so many, and probably more to come. But there will also be places that are opening.
Yeah.
So check them out. Make sure to keep tabs.
Yeah, and support your favorite spot. I mean, I
Yeah.
think of, obviously our businesses are very well supported in our communities. I think of our Nanaimo store, which is kind of suffering, and it's like breaks my heart that Big Wheel, is struggling in Nanaimo, and yeah. So go support Big Wheel at Nanaimo.
Yeah.
But support your local spot, because they, as much as you may think that they're doing well, yeah, just support. It's struggling.
It can be a veneer.
Yeah, it could be veneer,
yeah.
and yeah, if you want the place you love, and it doesn't have to be one of our spots, but any spot that you care and love about, think about them and show them some support, because we need it. And I hate to see it. Breaks my heart. I mean, I used to go to Bear and Joey a lot, and I really liked their room. I liked the food. I liked all that stuff, and to see it gone, makes me think I should have probably supported them a bit more.
Yeah, well, and it's hard. There's only
Yeah.
so much money in your bank account, and there are only so many places to go, right?
Totally. I mean, it's not about but do what you can. But I know it's like anything is when it's like Caleb. I didn't get that opportunity to have that last visit.
Yeah. I know you've got to take the opportunity when you can, right? Otherwise,
You never know.
time marches on,
Yeah.
and it marches on with or without us.
Yeah,
And so, if you got something to say to someone, say it.
say it.
And if you want to go support a business, go support it. Now's the time to do it.
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
When's a good time? Now.
Yeah.
It
really
whatever
is.
you can within your means, because there's no and I mean, it sounds stupid to be talking about business when you talk about things like what Emily and what happened to Caleb, but life's short.
Life is short.
So, yeah.
So next season, we're going to want some suggestions for guests. So
Yeah, if you know anybody that you'd like to
please let
hear,
us know. Nominate your guests.
Nominate your guests. You can email us at info@bigwillburger.com or Calen@bigwillburger.com
or samjones@mac.com.
or samjones@mac.com.
Sam Jones 5 at mac.com.
Yeah, it's samjones5@mac.com.
I'm not the first. I'm the fifth.
Or just think it, and hopefully we'll pick it up in the
Well, my hands are going to be in the garden. I'll pick up your vibes.
the grounding.
And you're going to be cold plunging in the ocean. You'll pick up the vibes.
Yeah, I'll pick up the vibes, the energy,
Absolutely.
and let us know if there's anything we're doing right or doing wrong. Or
I don't care if we're
no, it
doing
doesn't
something
really
wrong.
matter.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Just tell us if we're doing a good job.
we're just
I don't
gonna
want to hear
keep
anything
doing-
negative,
No,
man.
we don't want any negative. We want no trolls, man.
No trolls.
No, we got enough trolls in the world. We
And
don't
I'd
need
like to
any
thank our moms for listening
Yeah.
to this season, because
And
I know
that's-
they've done that.
more. Well, it's done it. I want to thank our producer Vivian for all the
Yay.
hard work she does. She's amazing. And and hopefully, I think we'll be back in August.
Yeah. I'd like
So-
to thank you for sponsoring this great event.
Yeah,
Thanks for doing it.
listen.
I appreciate it.
Not everything, it's about community, right? And having these conversations, sharing this information, I think is important. It's timeless. We've got it on YouTube. It's on our website, breadbuttercollective.com.
Anywhere where there's an @ symbol.
Anywhere there's an @ symbol, wherever you get your podcasts, you can view it, you can listen to it, all that stuff. But I think there's a lot of good information. I think what we're doing is we're providing some value.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're profiting
even if we
for
think-
the business.
Exactly.
For the industry. We're
Yeah.
profiting.
We're profiting.
We're making happy things happen.
Well, Sam, thank you to
Calen,
another season, number
great
4 or whatever it is.
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, or
whatever.
5. We just make up the numbers. And we'll see you in August. Have a good summer.
Yeah, have a great time in Vegas.
Yes.
Maybe I'll come visit you.
Come visit.
I've never been to Vegas. You know that? Never been.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah.
It's.
I think it's a place you need to see for the spectacle of it. But I wouldn't recommend it as a holiday destination.
You know what Vegas has? It's got the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon's pretty cool.
And I would
and
go
it's
for
got
the Grand
Zion
Canyon.
National Park, which is just north of Vegas
Okay.
towards Utah. I'm trying to, or is it west or east? Might be east.
When you're in
it
Vegas,
southeast?
they take away all the clocks and compasses, so you never know.
You never know
you're at.
where it is.
You never
But
know.
it's pretty cool. And I've been going to Vegas for 25 years, and only since I started going there with my wife have I ever seen anything other than the casino.
Thank God for good partners.
Good partners drag me out of the casino.
Nice. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Remember to be kind.
I will if you be nice.
Cheers, Sam.
Have a great one.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jetty Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles-inspired catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.